Hello, America. Dave Hodges here, host of the Common Sense Show. We are the show that is freeing America one enslaved mind at a time. Thank you so much for joining us. And you are now in the company of hips, hiding in plain sight. Mysteries that are apparent, but are often suppressed by cognitive dissonance and by the mainstream media that doesn't want you to understand your true history because it would make you realize where we are today, and for the most part, we're a captured entity. Knowledge can free you. And that's the objective of what we do here on the Common Sense Show in our series called HIPS, which exclusively airs on the Common Sense Show, commonsenseshow.tv. Some people out there right now are promoting the notion that anomalies with consciousness related to organ transplants, there's brand new discoveries. No, this has been known knowledge for decades, but we are adding to the knowledge base with newer research. That part's true. But to say this information is new, no, 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 no. Now, interesting cases, I should say. The phenomena of consciousness transfer of memories, experiences, and attitudes most commonly takes place, according to the research, in heart transplants. Those who receive kidneys and lungs have also noticed changes in food preferences, choices of music, and even, believe it or not, sexual orientation. For some people, their new hobbies and preferences mirror their donors. There's a high match. And he used a technique to measure this. It's called multiple regression analysis, and it's a correlation technique to describe the strength of relationship between two or more variables. Now, when you have multiple variables associated with personality, preferences, likes, dislikes, and so forth, you have to isolate those variables. And that technique that you do that with is called multiple regression analysis. And now we have really good research on this. And there's all kinds of really cool anecdotes here. There's one floating around today, and it's been in a couple publications where a 9-year-old boy received a heart from a 3-year-old girl who drowned in her family's pool. The boy had no idea how this donor died. His mother reported that he became deathly afraid of water. He was aquaphobic. And then there was the college professor who received a heart from a fallen police officer who was shot in the face, and he started seeing the flash of light in front of his eyes. And he talks about the physical experiences that accompany this. There was also the case of a young man who tragically died in a motorcycle accident. He loved chicken McNuggets. This 18-year-old boy, his heart was transferred in a heart transplant to a 50-year-old woman. She started riding motorcycles, took up an interest, couldn't explain it. And then she also started favoring chicken McNuggets. And we are seeing these anomalies over and over and over and over. And the research that we're getting now is confirming this nature. Now, to understand this, at least ideologically, I think we've got to go back and look at basic psychology. There was Sigmund Freud who said, you have repressed memories, it can come out. True. He thought hypnosis was a good way to do it. True. And there's more. And then came Carl Jung, spelled Jung. He was a colleague of Freud, but they split. Freud believed in personal unconscious. And you go back and visit your old elementary school when you were a child, and those memories start flooding back. That's opening up the personal unconscious. Carl Jung said there's something called a collective unconscious, and this is where all our memories and experience go. But it's not just you. According to the theory, it's every living entity in the universe. And I won't say there's an actual physical location, but there's a frequency location where all experiences, attitudes, memories, and so forth go to. And some of what we're believing now about the transfer of personality traits through these transplants, and you get differential attitudes, they think it has something to do with the collective unconscious. That's a starting point. But then there's another element of consciousness that we don't embrace in the West. And we're just beginning to look at it in research. But the people in the East, when I was in grad school in the 80s, I studied this as part of a theories of personality course. And the Indians, for example, believe that consciousness resides individually within each cell of your body. Isn't that interesting? Every cell has its own attitude and its own consciousness. Now, transfer that to another person, and there we have the template for the transfer of personalities and the traits that go with it, the preferences, orientations. Does a person go through a complete transformation? Not known at this point. What you'd have to do to study it would be unbelievably complex, but it could be done. You make a list of preferences. It would have to be exhaustive, at least into the multiple of hundreds, probably thousands. And then you correlate it to what changes take place pre and post with the recipient of the transplant. And what you find, or what you would give you approximately what percentage of personality transfer takes place. Now, I suspect it's very individualistic, but you could still arrive at the median and the mode. Median be the 50% point, mode would be most commonly occurring, and you'd come up with an average. And we could say, well, if you undergo a heart transplant, you have a reasonable chance that 10% of your personality traits are going to change. Fascinating stuff. The mind is unbelievably marvelous. And we're going to go down this route quite a bit here on the Common Sense Show. Uh, and we're going to look at this in more detail. We're going to take a look at what the data tells us about out-of-body experience. We don't have a lot, but we've got really good data from very, very famous psychologists in the modern era. And then we'll look at the idea of telepathy. And then we'll go a step further. We'll look at the idea of psychokinesis, mind affecting environment. And here's what's really interesting about that. Before you roll your eyes and go, oh, Dave, you're up on this esoteric nonsense. What would you say if I told you that Princeton engineers did a 3-decade study on mind affecting physical environment? They called it the Princeton Engineering Anomalies Research. And you can even locate this online. Last time I checked, they still maintain their website, even though they're not actively researching any longer. And the research data is phenomenal. It's fascinating. We are so much more than what we realize. And let me just give you an example before we close. When Jesus performed his miracles, throw your nets on this side of the boat, and he had the ability to turn water into wine and stone into bread. He could do anything he wanted. And he told his followers, this I do, and you can do more. We have this God given ability within us, but we're not taught how to tap it. And that's because we have the wrong people controlling our medical system, our financial system, and most of all, most importantly, related to this, our educational system. You are so much more than what you've been taught. You have so many more abilities. We're going to explore this. And then, as the cherry on top, we're going to also look at how you can develop it. Fascinating stuff coming up here on the Common Sense Show.tv. We hope you'll join us for more episodes of Hiding in Plain Sight. Thank you so much for joining us. It's always great to be with you. God bless.